GTA, Roblox, Rocket League, The Sims, Apex... I mean, ever wondered why
games like Fortnite, Minecraft, Roblox,
are still topping the gaming charts year after year while an influx of new innovative fresh IP barely gets noticed? I mean look at them. In both 2022 and 2023, the top 20 games by monthly active users look like a greatest hits album with the usual suspects. The only new kid on the block? Hogwarts Legacy. But that game too is riding on a legacy franchise older than its players.
There's 2 murders I've witnessed in one day as a 15-year-old.
So with these giants ruling, it seems that innovation is being overshadowed. But why? I mean, there's definitely no shortage of innovative new titles. The problem is that they often get lost in a crowd of less impressive games that look like they came straight out of a Godot tutorial. It's so bad that only 2.5% of these new titles reach 50,000 players. And that number could look much better. Now, some might say the reason is nostalgia. Sure, we're all busy getting our nostalgia fix these days with the Fortnite OG, cruising around tilted towers and shopping carts like it's 2019. But I'm not entirely buying this nostalgia thing, because many of these games are Gen Z and Gen Alpha, so way too young to feel nostalgic for something they didn't even grow up with. So what's really going on? The old favorites dominate and the new and fresh innovative games struggle to break through. It feels like we're stuck in a loop of inertia. Innovation at a standstill. But is it really stuck? Well, that's what I'm going to explore in this video, some sort of thought experiment, just for fun, to see if innovation in the gaming industry is currently really taking a back seat, or if there's a new path forward for new fresh IP to break through. So let's break things down. To understand the big picture, I want to know, why do these legacy franchises continue to be a big deal even for gamers who weren't around for the original hype? Take Fortnite, for example. Bringing back the old Fortnite OG map isn't merely a trip down memory lane. There's a powerful draw for new players too. Longtime players who grew up with Fortnite and then grew out of it came back because
it brought back my childhood, and because it's like everyone is back. All the memories, all the YouTubers, all the players, all this gets me emotional, mate.
Yeah, there is an emotional attachment to these games. And streamers stream about their emotional experiences.
And I spent 9 hours streaming it.
All contributing to an almost universal awareness. It has such a magnetic pull, it even attracts the younger players, Gen Z and Gen Alpha, who are all about what's currently trending online. But what exactly is pulling there? Yes, nostalgia does play a big part, but there's more. Something I found super interesting is the market-based assets theory of brand competition. It's a mouthful, I know, but it's really simple. It's about how a game's success isn't just about being unique, novel, different, innovative, but how a game's success is actually influenced by 2 major factors: mental availability and physical availability. So mental availability arises when a known game, like Fortnite, has built a network of memories in players' minds, so much so, it's more likely to be thought of and therefore chosen by players. Just think of all those Fortnite memories that stick out. Shopping cart TikToks, the black hole incident, Travis Scott concerts, the rocket launch. These are all like mental bookmarks that keep new players coming in. And physical availability simply refers to easy access, cross-platform, and easy to jump into. This kind of mental and physical availability makes sure games like Fortnite stay on top of the game. So it's a mix of smart marketing and establishing brand recognition. As a fellow Redditor told me, I play plenty of IPs that are new, but at the same time there's also something nice in the expectations that most franchises have with themselves. When another Doom game drops, so long as there aren't technical issues with the game, it's a pretty safe bet for me. I enjoyed Doom 2016, I enjoyed Eternal, I will probably enjoy the next one. So that's a very important point. Brand recognition provides safety. The mental availability of a familiar game means simply less risk of disappointment, time, and money. Now, you might ask a very important question: how did these legacy games become legacy games to begin with? Big question which deserves its own video, but I will say this. Games like Fortnite, Minecraft, Apex, etc. do nail the mental availability part. They excel in creating a sense of community and offer gameplay that's easy to start but hard to master, which means high replayability. Many new games have potential to nail those too, but They struggle with issues like gameplay, marketing budgets, technical problems. Splitgate, for example. Cool gameplay and lots of people jumped into it, but then faced server capacity issues and failed to retain its players. Or Outriders, published by Square Enix. It had the buzz, it was highly anticipated, it was on track to become the company's next major franchise, but had server issues as well and a repetitive gameplay. There are many more examples, but the point is that because of the big mental availability of legacy games, big studios continue to build on top of them. They're just a safe, familiar bet. But does this really mean that innovation as a whole in the gaming industry is stifled? Luckily, no. Not so quick. There's hope thanks to something called the Longtail effect. In very simple terms, the Longtail theory goes like this. At the start of the curve, we've got our big gaming giants, the games everyone knows and loves, games with big mental availability. But here's where it gets interesting. Further down the curve, that's where new IPs and indie games live. Not as famous, but absolutely adored by a smaller group of players. Thanks to Steam and other online marketplaces, this tail gets longer and flatter, meaning more and more niche games get the chance to shine and find their niche audience. They might start slow, but will eventually find its audience. Hollow Knight, for instance, wasn't born famous, but it grew its own legend living somewhere here in the long tail. And if a game is really good, or good enough for the specific audience, it'll get noticed no matter what. That's the long tail magic. It's not about pleasing everybody, but hitting the sweet spot for a specific audience in the beginning. Nevertheless, with so many new games out there, standing out for the long haul is hard. Even top quality new games in the long tail take time to hit the big league. Meanwhile, we stick to playing the familiar. But we also don't want to be stuck in a loop of playing the same old Call of Duty campaigns forever. So there is real tension there. An imbalance in the gaming world. Legacy titles with their big mental availability just have a big advantage staying at the top. So the bigger question is, how can we boost innovation so that new, fresh games can wow us more quickly? Well, and here's where it might get a little bit philosophical. But I really like to apply this framework as a lens when trying to understand patterns and trajectories. The Hegelian Dialectic. I know, a packed term, but in oversimplified way, this philosophical framework is basically the idea that progress happens when opposing forces, like tradition and innovation, clash and then fuse to create something new. There are 3 stages to this. Stage 1, thesis, the state of affairs. Stage 2, antithesis, the opposing force to the thesis. Stage 3, synthesis, the resolution of the conflict between the two, creating a new state. For example, games used to be traditionally centered around PC and console games. That's the thesis. Then came along smartphones and the rise of mobile gaming, which had different dynamics, monetization models, and player demographics. That's the antithesis. Then we're seeing a mix of both worlds today, with developers embracing mobile and cloud gaming, and mobile strategies impacting the industry as a whole. And that's the synthesis. Now, when applied to the innovation dilemma, we see on one side we have our classic heavyweight franchises. That's our thesis. Big mental availability and loyal fans. On the other side, there's an influx of new, innovative games striving for legacy, but struggling against these dominant legacies. That's our antithesis. Now, what happens next is what we call a dialectical conflict. These two, tradition and innovation, thesis and antithesis, collide to eventually create a new state, a synthesis. And this collision of conflicts, this imbalance, is actually something good. It fosters innovation. I know it feels stale right now, but it's not stale-made for innovation. I think it's just the calm before a storm. This tension here is actually not a barrier to innovation, but a driver, and here's why. We are in the middle of the synthesis stage now. Legacy IPs see the success of new innovative game IP and begin to adapt and evolve. Similarly, new game IP learn from the mass appeal of the big ones. I know, it's not a new phenomenon. I mean, we see this all the time, but right now we see this more than ever. Accelerating, speeding up, it's at its height right now. I mean, Minecraft inspired the Fortnite creative mode. World of Warcraft had massively influenced the total conversion mod Enderroll. Forgotten Stories, which used Skyrim's engine and crafted its own narrative and became something on its own. Metroid, Castlevania, they all influenced the design and gameplay of Hollow Knight. Braid, Fez, Super Meat Boy, all innovative new fresh games, new IP. They even made a documentary about them. And you can find Final Fantasy tactics in indie games like Fell Seal and Fate Tactics. And the list continues, but you get the point. I feel like that the gaming world is converging and merging big and small, new versus old, more and more. And it's not just a mere imitation game or copying from one another. It's an entire whole new dynamic and interaction leading to a fresh new gaming ecosystem and a fresh new competitive gaming landscape, unlike anything we've seen before. So my take is we're at the cusp of a new golden age in gaming. And here's why. Technology. Listen up. Right now, we are on a plateau. Big legacy games rule, and new, fresh, innovative games trying to break through and make a mark. What we'll see next is more and more convergence between old and new IPs, and between indie and AAA games, so much so it's hard to tell them apart. Especially with easier to use tools and AI shaking things up, it's going to become even easier for smaller studios to make big waves. Again, this is just a little thought experiment here. I mean, you can already see this with upcoming titles. Krafton, the makers of PUBG, an indie game studio, announced the release of a beautiful, ultra-realistic life simulation game called Inzoi, which is definitely going to rival EA's Sims 4 and upcoming Sims 5, and it's going to create its own mental availability. I mean, look at this. It's using Unreal Engine 5, and it doesn't look like a game that'll come and go and not make a mark. Especially with AI, the craft and the art of making games will just never be the same ever again. And I'm not just talking ChatGPT and DALL-E and Stable Diffusion. These are already great for creating detailed game visuals or assistance in coding, but I'm talking about entire AI-assisted creation pipelines, from automated testing to AI NPC and AI-powered motion capture tools, without having to have a motion capture suit. I mean, you want to create 3D animations from a video without motion capture suit? Sure, it's there. AI-powered mocap tools without equipment. Want to create voice dialogues with AI actors? Sure, no problem, can do. Want the players to give orders to an AI NPC using his or her own voice? Sure. Speech recognition tools and translation tools get easier and smoother by the day. Looking for innovative game ideas? Sure, there's a tool for that too, helping developers generate innovative game mechanics and concepts. And these are just scratching the surface. The point is, with new tech and AI, the gap between old versus new IP, AAA, indie, budget sizes, type of studio is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And that will eventually level the playing field. We will reach a new plateau, a new meta in gaming, if you will, where it's less about the dichotomy of what is what and more about creativity and innovation. A world where all games grow and change together, no matter who makes them or how much they cost. And this new gaming meta will be all about studios competing equally with a market full of quality games from all corners. Now, once that meta is reached, once every gaming studio, regardless of size or budget, is in the same equal level playing field, things will stabilize again. The market might become oversaturated with high quality games from all corners due to AI. We'll see lots of great games, so much so it'll be tough for anyone to stand out. With tech and AI, it will be easier to compete for the head, but way harder than ever to be the next big sensation in the gaming culture. So that's my take. Innovation is not stifled or dead. It's just a calm before a storm, and we are at the cusp of a new golden era for gaming. But once we hit that new gaming meta, what then? Well, that's the tantalizing conundrum of gaming. Each new trend leads to another, each new meta leads to another, each new cycle to another, and we never know what's next. But what do you think? Will we see a brand new style of gaming emerge? Or is it just way too hard to fathom and imagine at this point with AI being in the mix? But one thing is for sure, even if the gaming charts look the way they do, innovation is far from dead or stifled or taking a back seat. It's just gearing up. Anyways, back to some Alan Wake 2.